You're on.
All right, everybody. All right, we're going to get started. So I know the dessert is, I think everyone's got their desserts. So go ahead and finish up and we'll get started as we go. So again, nice to have everyone here. Hello to everybody. And let's start with some announcements. I do actually want to start by having someone come up here today. I'm going to interrupt her dessert. So, Pam.
Van Overloop.
If you don't mind coming up for a minute. Yeah, you're in trouble. Come on up here.
Cheryl, what they do now?
You did nothing. You did nothing.
You're
So
fine.
it's all good. So since you've been with us for a year,
I have.
we get to accept back your red new member badge.
Oh, is that why I'm special?
Yep. You get an official non-red
Thank you.
veteran Lions badge.
Thank you. It's wrinkled,
So-
but I'll take it.
Oh, is it a little
A
wrinkled?
little wrinkled, but I like that.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, it's easy.
Do you want to get a picture?
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move into a few more announcements. So, because I'm alone up here, I can take this up. We'll talk a little bit about the blind dinner date. So, as everyone's aware, blind dinner date has, well, maybe you're not aware, blind dinner date has been moved from our traditional locations. We're doing a different kind of event this year. So, blind dinner date is going to be held out at a ranch, and it's going to be in August. So there'll be more information coming on that as we get closer, but just so everyone's aware.
The 19th.
August 19th, right. Other announcements, anyone want to speak on Drive for Vision? Do we have anyone here who's up to speed and can give us an update?
I can give a little bit.
Jamie, yeah, go ahead.
I haven't been to a committee meeting in 2 years, but since I work with Kyle,
Where are you?
you'll find on your tables the brochure for the Drive for Vision. And just want to let everybody know that Drive for Vision is open for members, for, oh, you putting me on there? For anybody that wants to play, sponsor. Things are, starting to go. We're starting to hear from people, but definitely want to fill it up. And it's on June 21st, same place that we've had it for the last 20 years at Quail Ridge. And if you need any more brochures, let me know.
Thanks, Jamie. Any other announcements from any committees? I want to make sure we cover those that are ongoing. I'm just going to open it up to anybody. No? All right. I do want to report, if everyone isn't aware, Mark Oberlin is currently in hospital in Arizona. He's still there. So they're asking for prayers for diagnosis and for a quick recovery, but he's still out there. So keep him in your thoughts and reach out if you feel like you'd like to give him some support. What am I missing? I feel like there's something else.
Tail twister.
What's that?
Tail twister.
Yeah, I'll move right to that. Okay, I don't have any other announcements, so we can move right into the tail twister. Jamie?
Hey.
Get him at an
I've had
angle.
people come up and just throw money at me today. It's like they don't want to be singled out, like Rob gave me $10 and because he's been to Arizona and going to Florida. Richard gave me a couple dollars because he's got a pin today. First time in 4 or 5 weeks or more.
Well, he just bought it.
Can I get
He's
your?
waving money at me. Okay. I'm sorry, but trying to moving around. I'm supposed to have my mask on. So. And then, of course, besides that, any other happy bucks that we've got coming this way, Jeff, and Scott, and me. I got A few of us were in the sun and
Some of
golfing.
my proceeds from the golf that I took from Mr. Cry, Mr. Gary, and Mr. Janata, Mr. Rowland. Did I win out there?
As I recall, we took money together.
We did, the last.
He's a
year we
crook.
got it.
He's a crook.
Yeah, that's going well. Half the bucks are good. That's good. Anybody that doesn't have their pen, I'm in a finding mood today, so we're just gonna keep going through the money you grab.
No pen fine.
No pen fine.
How about a 10 and a 5? That's a G.
What's that? You don't normally give change. It's for a pen.
It's not a pen, it's for no green.
It's no green. Whoa, that's an expensive no green. I'll give you a 10 back on that one. I'm getting soft. But anybody else that doesn't have any green on that was advertised in the newsletter and green. Anything over there?
Very good.
Okay. I don't think there's anything else that I've got. It was a good read.
We'll do the guest introductions here, so
Perfect, thank you.
as Jamie still breaks in the money, let's introduce our guest over there in the back table.
Fellow Lions, I'd like to introduce to you David Klein, he's a friend of mine. We've known each other for many years. And David actually brought with him a pair of glasses to contribute to our recycle program. David, please stand up and tell a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dave Klein. I'm actually with First American Title and work with John professionally, but as he said, we've been friends for many, many years. And actually, I grew up a little bit with Lions. My grandpa in Lincoln, Michigan, if anybody knows where that is, by us going up in it, he was a Melvin Jones fellow and was in Lions for, I don't know how many years, probably 50 years. I came, but it was a long time ago. So anyway, glad to be here and nice to meet you.
Glad to have you with us. Thank you. Yeah, sure.
You'll meet our speaker in a minute, but Kim Rantala is Director of Development with I Understand, so I'm glad that, so she's got the real bug of the video. We're gonna
Okay.
charge money for people to watch this.
All right, I think we can move on at this point to the raffle. Richard, you want to get us going on that? Get your tickets out.
It's all 32.
Yeah, just, I'll get you when you go.
I should say while we're waiting on the raffle, this is the first meeting that we've live streamed on Zoom as well. So we do have that going on. I see Lynn on there. Lynn can wave. There he is. I know nobody in the room can see him, but I can see him.
So you got green on?
I can't. You got green on Lynn? He does. Yeah, he's safe. He's good.
$5.9037.
Are you reading a number?
Yeah.
What was it?
9037.
Richard, come on, Doc.
Isn't that nice of you? 9032 to draw.
Good thing it's not Lally.
Look, Sean. Thank you for your donation.
Sean, that's what he wants to-
Are you sure it's in there?
look at.
No big winner today. All right. And announcements or discussion, I am going to pass it over to Shelley. Are you doing introductions?
Jen, what do they do in the presidential?
You're doing well.
Thank you very much. There's air. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go without the microphone. Vonnie Woodrick is here. She has books. There we go. Founder of I Understand, Small I. Author of I Understand, Small I. Also podcasts Toast Behind the Smile. So I like that title of your podcast. Fun facts about her because you all received her bio. She's been in the Women's World magazine. She finds her peace on the water, and she's bought beer from Kim. Give it up for Vonnie Woodrick.
It's fun to connect with people from a different life, Kim, right? In connecting. And I was told to wear green today, but I wore pink in honor of my organization, I Understand. And I wear pink because it represents unconditional love and loving ourselves enough to get the help that we need and loving others just the way they are. So I really appreciate being here today because I know that mental health, suicide, very, very difficult topics to talk about. But one of my passions is bringing that conversation to everyday places so we can talk about it and we can reduce the stigma and judgment involved. We are losing almost 1 million people to suicide worldwide each year. This is a healthcare crisis for which there is no vaccine. But through increased understanding of mental health issues and open conversations, we can all help. I have 3 words that I want to share with you today that have profoundly impacted my life. They are passion, change, and acceptance. It's been almost 18 years since I became a widow. My kids have now lived longer without their dad than with their dad. I didn't know that depression had a deadly side effect, and that side effect is suicide. I thought suicide was something that a crazy person did, or they must be insane and they belong in a nut house. Those are the words that I probably used in the past. But my husband wasn't crazy. He was kind, loving, and gentle. He made me laugh. He made my kids laugh. One of Rob's greatest characteristics was passion. The passion he had for so many things often had me yearning for that strong emotion that he exuded so well. Listening to him describe a bottle of wine, or hear a story of his helicopter experience, or the way that he described food. It didn't matter if it was a 5-star restaurant or drive-through hamburger joint called Clyde's in St. Ignace, Michigan. He had a passion that surpassed many, in not only his descriptive detail, but his energy and his expressions. I believe that Rob received the gift of passion from his dad. I recall his father, Bob Woodrick, who many of you know, or at least heard of. His passion to make a difference, especially when it came to racism and fighting equality for all. It's been a long year. It's been a long year. I'm used to doing these Zooms right now. I lost my father-in-law 4 months ago. And I came across this quote. I don't think I've ever done this yet. Have I ever really gotten emotional? But I want to share the quote with you from my father. He said, I believe that racism is real and it's wrong, and that its presence with us has not diminished. Furthermore, I believe denial plays a significant role in masking racism. Only when we acknowledge our denial can the healing of racism begin. What's emotional for me with this is he said this in 1996. He said this 25 years ago. And today we are still dealing with the same issue of racism. And it saddens me to know that he died without change. It was happened this past year. The point of me sharing passion for my late husband and for my father-in-law is because it was inspiring. And their passion made me see that that was something that I wanted. I wanted to feel it, I wanted to experience it, and I wanted to share it. I used to ask Rob, where does your passion come from? And he would always say, you have passion, your passion's your family. And maybe you can see that through my tears. But Rob's passion gave me the passion that I sought after for so long. I felt it, I experienced it, and today I'm sharing it. Because it's a bittersweet place knowing that I had to lose Rob to get this gift and to create a platform for change. Today, I'm passionate about taking a difficult topic, not unlike my father-in-law 25 years ago, and make it easier to talk about. I am passionate about changing the conversation to make mental health and suicide viewed more accurately. My life changed. Long gone are the days of having it all. And what do I mean by having it all? A lifestyle that included multiple cars, some not even a necessity, a pool in the backyard, a membership to a country club, a lake house, and basically being able to buy whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. But change happened unexpectedly and tragically. I became a widow. Living life as a widow, 39 years old, wasn't easy. I thought being a widow was 89, 99. I had no friends who were widows. I had friends who were divorced, who quickly told me that I was much better off than they were. Really? I wanted help and support. I wanted my kids to have their dad. I wanted every other weekend free and Wednesdays off. But they were better off than I was. The after effects of my husband's suicide was far greater than I ever imagined. The judgment and stigma surrounded me. I developed what I call the turtle syndrome. I moved slow out in public, peeking my head out only to hear whispers. Her husband's the one that killed himself. I saw fingers pointing, knowing that they were talking about me or my situation. But the dreaded question, how did he do it? That forced me back into my turtle shell. And I didn't want to come out of my safe turtle shell. It was lonely. But to face the whispers, the pointing, and the questions, my husband was 4th generation suicide. Why didn't I know that? Why didn't we talk about those before him? I knew changes had to be made. If not for me, but for my kids and the thousands of others that lose a loved one to suicide or struggle with an illness that can have a deadly side effect. So I set out to change. When I was in my 20s, my father-in-law gave me the book, The Road Less Traveled. Many of you are probably familiar with that book. And in my true transparency, I was in my early 20s. The last thing I wanted to do was read that book. I had much better things to do, but knowing I would have to engage in a conversation about this book, I read it, or perhaps skimmed it, but I'm so glad I did. Because there is one phrase that has stuck with me all of these years. Change yourself first. The others around you will change. At the time, I didn't realize how profound that line would come to be. I needed to make a change, and a change that only could begin with me. I stopped lying about my husband's death, speaking the truth is so much easier to tell. It's so much easier to tell people that my husband died from cancer because you're greeted with compassion and love. You mentioned the word suicide. People want to talk about it. People turn their heads and say things like, that was selfish. How could he do that to you and the kids? Or, how'd he do it? Do you know what it feels like when you're grieving and someone asks you, how did he do it? I'm brought back to a place of trauma, the shock and the devastation of that day. And it is because of that question that I set out to change the definition of suicide. Isn't it time we start talking about the illness associated rather than the act? The definition of suicide is currently one who intentionally kills themselves. My proposed definition, a side effect of a mental brain health illness or pain. If you can leave here today remembering one thing, I want you to remember this. Pain is the common, no. 4 words, no pain, no suicides. Without pain, there would be no suicides. Pain is the common denominator of all suicides. Most often, suicide is associated with mental illness. Depression is present in the majority of all suicides. Some diagnosed, some undiagnosed. Life experiences can cause suicidal thoughts and suicidal actions without having a diagnosed mental health, brain health illness. We need to understand what those life circumstances are that have that deadly side effect. So let's be aware that bullying doesn't happen in just school. It happens at home, in the workplace, in the gym. And suicide from the ages 10 to 34 years old is the second leading cause of death. How many of those young people do you think were bullied? Financial loss, job loss, creates concern about paying bills. How am I going to take care of my family? Heartbreak, divorce, separation causes great fear that can be devastating and unmanageable. Isolation, being alone with no support can be debilitating. Grief, losing a loved one or a child brings thoughts of wanting to leave this earth to be with our loved ones. Physical pain, sometimes feeling there's no other way out to end it. Please change the narrative and understanding of suicide with me. Suicide is a side effect and we need to recognize that it needs to be changed. Go to our website, IunderstandLoveHeals.org. Check out our definition petition, sign it, and be a part of that change that we need to happen. Also, changing the narrative by removing the word kill. My husband did not kill himself. He had an illness, and the illness won. Just like every other illness, they're preventable, they're treatable, yet they can also be terminal. We have even found that the flu can be terminal. Pain can be deadly wherever that pain is coming from. Also, my husband did not commit suicide. Do people commit heart disease? Up until 1964, suicide was deemed a crime. That is where the word commit came into play. My husband died from depression. His illness won. He lost his battle. I wouldn't have been able to get where I have gotten today without that gift of passion that he left behind, without recognizing change that needed to take place and the acceptance of the journey that I have been put on. Acceptance has been a word that I knew I needed to understand from the very beginning of after my loss. If I didn't accept that my husband was not coming back, if I didn't accept that my having it all was changing, and I didn't accept that I was a widow to 3 young kids who are now fatherless, I could be on a totally different path right now. And oftentimes that path comes to self-medicating with drugs and alcohol or food or whatever. The most difficult thing that I've had to do on this 18-year journey after my loss is watch my kids grow up without their dad. We had to accept so many things, every occasion. Getting driver's license, trying to teach 3 kids to drive on my own was probably one of the worst experiences that I've ever had. Graduations, weddings, Friday night pizza parties, they would be hard. But hard is an understatement. Through acceptance, we've been able to move forward to a place that allows us to focus on a time that we had and appreciate the moments that we were able to share, not letting my husband, my kid's dad, to ever be defined by how he died, because he was so much more than that. We now know that we will work hard through I Understand to continue to bring the conversation to everyday places like this one. Thank you, Shelley, for doing so. It's so important because I hope you leave with a different perspective. I hope you leave with wanting to make that change. But today I'm grateful I have it all. Maybe I don't have numerous cars, a second home, or a country club membership. I have so much more. I have people who no longer have to be alone in their struggles, their loss. The people are like family, a community that loves and accepts each other for who they are, whatever illness or struggle that they have. It doesn't matter. The color of their skin, it doesn't matter. The kind of car they drive, it doesn't matter. But what matters is I surround myself with those who share that same passion to make a difference, that recognize the change that needs to happen, and bring us to a place with the acceptance of each other, our individual stories, and the beauty to learn the true meaning of unconditional love. What I hope for each and every one of you, that you find your own passion, that you change what needs to be changed in your life to make the best it can be, and accept your journey, your path, because no matter what your circumstances are, it will bring you to a place that you are meant to be. I would love you to learn more about I Understand, our website, our mission, one that provides compassionate comfort and understanding to those who have lost a loved one to death by suicide or struggle with a mental health illness. You each have a pink heart at your table. It's one of our programs. Share your heart with someone else. Let them know that you will be the one, that you will have a conversation, or that you understand it's okay. Read about our programs, our support groups, our We're Care Share campaign, our community events. Again, sign the declaration petition. I'm so proud that at Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, I Understand has funded the first in the country nurse specializing in mental health in a traditional hospital setting. At the end of the month, we're opening an I Understand sensory room for children who are at the hospital at risk of harming themselves, a place of comfort and calm. Read my book, I Understand Pain, Love, and Healing After Suicide. It will change you. It will bring this understanding that we need to change, and we need to change one person at a time, because I was alone. And suddenly I have troops behind me that support me. I would love for you to support me too. We support the Michigan Sheriff's Association by providing these books as toolkits in 52 units throughout the state of Michigan. We create training videos to help officers and advocates show compassion and understanding when they make difficult calls into the home who are experiencing a mental health crisis. But I want to leave you with this. Are you struggling? You don't have to face it alone. You don't have to hide it. There's people that will listen. Talk to someone. Talking saves lives. Dissect your pain. Where does that pain come from? Call your doctor. Walk into an emergency room. Reach out to the helpline 24/7, 1-800-273-TALK, because you need to know the world is a much better place with you in it than without you. Oh, what would you like me to say?
Just show
Oh.
your book.
Okay, so this is the book. It's a very simple read. I understand pain, love, and healing after suicide. We currently, it is an Amazon bestseller. We currently have close probably to 8,000 in circulation right now. If you haven't had a suicide loss, read it for somebody that you may know that has. Find out what it's really like. But we have a butterfly as my little symbol because it's a reminder that we can all be in that dark place, in that cocoon. But through time and transformation and love, we all have the ability to emerge into something beautiful. So these you can get on Amazon, or I have some here. Daily special today, $10. They're $14.99 on Amazon, but a $10 donation is what we take for the book. So thank you again, I appreciate it.
Questions? Oh,
Does anyone have questions for Vonnie?
actually, I have one. I understand. Is that a phrase that you would want us, if someone's sharing their story, is it okay? Should I say, I understand?
Yeah.
Play on words too?
Yeah, you know, I think that one thing that we have found is in the power of sharing your story, you are giving people the ability to say, I know, I get it, I understand, I've been there. That's where that community comes, because we're never alone. And once you have shared your story, there's so much power in it, and other people want to share. I mean, we have floodgates of people that wanting to share, but also the connections that become quite personal and quite valuable in your life happen.
Do you ever talk to people who wanted to kill themselves
Yes.
and then medication or talking or something helped them? And I guess my real question is that an ongoing thing with them? Is this a never leaves my brain
So
feeling?
that's a good question. And what I do as the passion that I have to change the conversation, to change the narrative, I'm going to just use you as an example to correct you. We don't use the word kill.
I know
And
as
you
soon
know,
as it came
I know
out
as soon as you say it, but when we
I do.
correct people, we
So then
stop.
what do I say?
And you say, well,
Someone who lost.
do
the
you have
battle.
somebody that, because there's always something, there's always a pain, there's always an illness, there's
Right.
always something.
Right.
So we want to say, like, I lost my husband to depression. And when I say I lost my husband to depression, we get a much different reaction than when I say he killed himself. Because when I say depression, we could talk about the signs and the symptoms and what we had to go through, rather than reliving that act. So for every situation is different, and it just depends on where that pain is coming from. If your friend has a diagnosed mental health illness or is struggling with addiction, bipolar, pain, right? We don't talk about the pain associated, and we need to check in. Is it something that they deal with the rest of their life? It can be situational, but until you dissect and go back to that pain where it originated from, you may never ever stop. But also then there's that genetic component. You know, my husband was predisposed, my kids are predisposed. If you have alcoholism, addiction, mental health disorders in your family, that's the number one warning sign. But they are treatable and they are preventable. But sweeping it under the rug, not talking about it, and getting the help we need. And I like to use this as an example. If that person had cancer, what would you do? You would talk about it as a family. You would go to the doctor, you would get a plan, you would get treatment, and you would go to follow up for 5 years. The exact same thing needs to happen with a mental health, brain health illness, or pain.
Other questions for Vonnie? Well, if you can stay just for a second, we want to thank you for coming out to speak with us today. And
Thank
don't
you.
forget there's a mug and a nice little first aid kit with our logo on it. So enjoy that.
Thank you. And I appreciate the grace with the tears, so thank you.
And with that, everyone, Today we are adjourned. Try again.
I can't see it.